Houston ISD says it is promising to do better tomorrow after what Superintendent Mike Miles calls, quote, unacceptable issues with the district's transportation system.
From students not getting their assigned bus routes in time to parents getting information for someone else's child. Clearly, there is a lot of work to do. We have team coverage for you tonight. Maria Aguilera is looking at how the district plans to fix the problems.
But first, Anieli Ruiz explains what students and parents had to deal with today. Anieli.
Well, that's right. Frustrated parents contacted us all day wanting us to highlight this issue. They tell us they should have received the bus routes for their kids last week, but only received them last night. It's the first day of school, a fresh start for the kiddos. But for many parents, it's been a day filled with anxiety.
I already knew it was going to be a little chaotic.
Charlie Renee tells us her first grade daughter goes to this school. That's at least 20 minutes away from home. But as of this evening, her daughter...
We don't have a bus route just yet, and I'm not too sure if anyone else on campus does.
But she's not the only one dealing with bus troubles. Other parents told us they got a route, but they received the wrong one.
It included bus route information, but it wasn't for my child. They sent me another child's name, the location of their bus stop. I never received an email about my child and when his actual bus route was.
And not just that. Parents are saying the bus routes are just too long.
My child, who would start school at 8:30 in the morning, is set to be picked up at 5:45 in the morning. She would not get back until almost 6 o'clock at night, making it a 12-hour day before any homework.
And parents like Charlie Renee were hoping to work out the problems today, but fear the issues might not be resolved soon.
It does worry me because this will be her first year riding the school bus, and I wanted to be sure that she was going to be safe and, be sure that she's going to be back at the location, picked up from the location. And now that we don't have a notice, I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Now, the HISD Transportation Department did send out an email to parents apologizing for sending out the wrong information. They also provided for some numbers where parents can call to verify those routes. And of course, a lot of parents today told us that those numbers, they were having a hard time getting through. Again, very frustrating for these parents who many have to go to work and don't want to leave their kids stranded. Mia, Len.
Aguilera right now with what the district plans to do differently tomorrow. Maria.
Well, for starters, Miles says he plans to double the staffing at those call centers to make it easier for parents to get through, while at the same time calling the first day of school successful. As students returned to Houston ISD, bus routes were one issue.
That's unacceptable. We'll get that right.
State-appointed Superintendent Mike Miles says the district rolled out a new software called EduLog. We found out through HISD's vendor payment website, the district paid nearly $1 million in April for the transportation software.
Why were still, as of last night, 700 students not having bus routes? And was this software tested over the summer before it was rolled out to parents?
Mm-hmm. Software was tested. There's still some bugs that we have to work out in the entire system. And we're working our way through the 700 students without routes.
The quote, bugs in the software led to false routes for children. And that wasn't the only issue.
Can you tell us how many schools in the district had AC issues and if they will be fixed by tomorrow?
So I don't know exactly how many schools had AC issues. I know that every day, this week, next week, and this month and next month, we're going to have some AC issues.
Miles blames the derecho in May and the hurricane in July. Jackie Anderson, the president of the Houston Federation of Teachers, says there's more to it.
You're playing catch up, and the two storms didn't help. But when you have let everybody go, that's what happens. It's poor planning, again, on Mr. Miles' part.
Anderson is a former educator. She says some issues on the first day are expected, but that today was chaotic.
We do expect things to be more organized.
With those issues in mind, Miles says it was a successful first day of school.
274 schools with quality instruction on day one.
Anderson says she and many HISD teachers would disagree.
I don't know what Mr. Miles calls successful.
Other steps Miles outlined tonight include sending updated routes to families and adjusting those routes as needed. He says whenever the routes are completed this fall, the new system should work. And the district plans to update us again tomorrow.
All right, so we had a great day today, successful first day of school. Yes, I'm going to get to the bus, which is, we have in need of improvement there, but the rest of the day was a very successful day. What does that mean, and what does that look like? For me, we had a successful day of high quality instruction in almost every school, 274 schools with quality instruction on day one. I said that the most important variable is high quality instruction, and that we have to have high quality instruction every day for 180 student-teacher contact days. And immediately most people out there would think, well, the first day can't be strong instruction, but it was here. I visited 3 schools myself, Kettleson Elementary School, Dogan Elementary School, and Navarro Middle School, but I also called the division superintendents and some of the executive directors of instruction, and they gave me the same sort of report as what I saw at Kettleson, Dogan, and Navarro. I saw kids engaged in learning. I saw the teachers teaching the Texas standards. I saw principals going around. It was as if we'd been in school at least a few weeks. According to Orlando Riddick, he's the division superintendent of the North Division, so much further ahead than what we were a year ago. So you'll remember we started August 28th. It's not just the timeline, but if you compare August 12th this year to August 28th last year, we're way ahead instructionally. So, and I got to talk to a lot of kids there in the team centers, and they were happy to be back in school. Most of them are still learning, a new school, new friends, but they're right back at it. So that's the first part. And the other stuff is the other things I want to point out are the things we did in preparation for this school year. I want to give a big shout out to our maintenance crews. In any summer, it's a tough thing to keep our get our buildings ready and to get our air conditioning units fired up and ready to go. This summer in particular, we had the derecho in May that knocked out some rooftop units and air conditioning systems, and then we had the hurricane, which did further damage to our buildings, but also air conditioning units. Lost power for a while and all of that. And then we had the rainiest July, or one of the rainiest Julys in some time in Houston. And so getting all of our schools open today, 274 schools open today, remained open today, with all the challenges we have with air conditioning, I think was pretty phenomenal for our crews. Keep in mind, we're going to have this battle every day through August and September and probably part of October, fighting the battle with the heat. And then we'll have it again in April and May. But to have all the schools open on time, I was very proud of our schools. Particularly want to point out Sinclair, the elementary that had the trees on the portables was a feat to get ready for this year, and they're ready to go. Project Chrysalis, the school that we moved from the portables that were just always have been a problem. We moved them across the parking lot to the annex, Lockwood Annex, and that community is now really happy. The new conditions, the air conditioning, of course, but just more modern, modern trailers or portables rather. And so that community is really happy, and that took some doing, but facility-wise, I think we had a good start. We also had a good start with regard to staffing. So we had 28 vacancies out of 10,640. That's got to put in perspective a number of kids. That's less than 0.3% of the teachers. So we have very few subs in the buildings today. We have no subs in the NES schools, of course. So the students had effective teaching with very few subs out of the 10,640 teachers today. So that was another large feat and a success. Let's talk about transportation real quick, and then I'll answer some questions. So you'll recall that we needed to, in the district, revamp our transportation system. And it's going to take more than, this year or last year to get it fixed. Lots of problems with routes, the number of kids on a bus, the distances that we have to travel, and the amount of money we spend on transportation. We spent $56 million last year transporting 9,000 students. So as a result of that, we started making some changes. We added satellites, and we added a transportation platform called EduLog to help with the routing. And obviously, we didn't have all our I's dotted and T's crossed with regard to that software. And so there's still some bugs, and as a result, some kids got two different routes. They got the correct route, and they got some emails that saying they have a different route, or a route for somebody that's not their child. So that's a problem. We're going to do better tomorrow. We know that for some families, that's a big deal to have a last-minute notification with the wrong route. So that's unacceptable. We'll get that right. The other thing that we think we can do better tomorrow is we can have more and even double the size of the call center, where people can call in and get information. As it impacts schools, it wasn't that large an impact. I mean, for any family, if that's you, then that's a huge impact. But as the schools as a whole, the kids got to school. Most of them got to school on time, the overwhelming majority. I talked, for example, to Principal Vela at Pin Oak. I don't think she'll mind me saying, in her experience, and she has a lot of bus riders. She has up to 600 kids who could ride the bus, and most of them don't ride the bus, even though they're eligible. That's what she told me. And she didn't have any bus that was late, and the kids didn't have many transportation issues from her community that she knows of, and so she feels pretty good about how transportation worked for her school. That doesn't mean for any one parent it didn't work well. So we know we got some work to do there, but overall we had a good first start of the school year. And if the ultimate metric is whether kids got served and their education on this day was strong and lasts for 180 days, then I think you have to say that was accomplished for today.
Okay, we're going to address your question. Please, before us, let me know you have a question and wait for your turn. First question. Megan.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if you had any data on the number of late, missed bus routes or canceled bus routes, if there's any information, hard numbers on that.
I don't have any hard numbers. In fact, we're holding this early so that some folks can have their stories written this evening. But when I leave here, I'm going to go to our staff meeting where we'll have a little bit more details on today's, especially the numbers. So I don't have any hard numbers for you now. I can tell you that overwhelming majority of buses got to school on time. There were some buses that were a few minutes late because of the first day around the school, in and out. You got parents drop off and pick up some new parents, and so it's always a little bit more chaotic around the school, and that's why some of the buses were late. But as far as I know, the buses got to their stops on time, and nobody missed their stops.
KPRC and then Margaret.
Superintendent Miles, good afternoon. You touched on it very briefly. We can just go over the numbers again really fast. You had how many students last year? 50. The cost was over 50 million. How many students riding the bus this year? You just touch on that.
Yeah, so we had last year 56 million for 9,000 students. Just like every year, the first day or so is a little bit different, and we haven't confirmed the numbers, but I think it's approximately 2,000 students riding the bus today. That number will grow.
Mine is twofold. I was out at Sharpstown this morning. Some kids were waiting to go to Carnegie, and they were not on time. And what was surprising was the older one, who's a junior, said, "Yeah, last year it was on time." So what went wrong?
So I'm not aware of that, and maybe you're talking about that's their first initial stop.
That's their stop, and then they get picked up from there to go to be taken to Carnegie, which has been set up, I guess, for a while.
Yeah, I don't have any information on that. That's the first I've heard of it.
Okay, well, if you all could let me know afterwards. And the other thing is, a lot of parents, I believe, were really upset, and it seems like you worked through the weekend to bring, which is, great, E for effort, except wouldn't it have been better to tell parents a lot sooner so they'd know what route their kids were going to have? There were a lot of parents who still did, end of last week, I don't know where my kid is going. I don't even know where the nearest bus stop is because they shift. And so can you speak to why that was? What I kept hearing was they had all summer. Why wasn't this worked out sooner?
Yeah, so a lot of parents did get their routes. I think we gave out 17,000 routes. And there's a balance between when you do the route, right? So we started, I think, 8 days ago we started, or almost 10 days ago we started giving out routes. You can't give out routes too early because they will change ultimately as kids register. As kids register and enroll for routes, that's when you start putting routes together. If you give a route early and there's no other kids, then you have to cancel the route. So there's a balance somewhere. We think that, and this happens every year, by the way. It's not unique to this year. People get their routes about a week before, and as kids register or enroll, the routes they're given routes. So that started a while ago, and like I said, 17,000 kids got routes. Not all of them are eligible, for example, and not all of them will ride. And so for the next 2 weeks, you're going to ask me the same question because it fluctuates as some people. And we told people, look, let's just give them a route even if they're not eligible, and then worry about eligibility afterwards. So that's going to happen as kids. I already told you there's 17,000, but there won't be that many riders. And so as kids drop off and as kids show up, as kids enroll, we're going to have to change the routes.
Victor?
Or some routes, anyway.
You had touched on this about the system or software in which caused parents to basically get information of students that were not theirs. Can you just expand on that and what you believe the corrective issues that were?
Yeah, so we had Edulog. We're asking Edulog representatives to help, and they were here this weekend to help with that. And also, we think we found the mistake. So I think if it hasn't gone out already, we have new routes going out, or the correct routes going out. They're not actually new.
And following up on his question on the software and the bugs that it had and the reason why some of the issues happened, why were still, as of last night, 700 students not having bus routes, and was this software tested over the summer before it was rolled out to parents?
Mm-hmm. Software was tested. There's still some bugs that we have to work out in the entire system, and we're working our way through the 700 students without routes. Keep in mind, kids enroll every day, and over the last few days, kids have enrolled, and so you have the need to give them routes almost every day. So we'll have more tomorrow that need to be routed, and more the next day. We'll have more the next 2 weeks, and then it'll start to slow down.
And then can I just ask about the call centers? You mentioned that there are going to be more call centers now. Is the reason why people were not getting through because of the overwhelming amount of calls, or what happened there? Some people got voicemail, some people were just not able to get through.
Yeah, I can't speak for all of that, but yes, there were a lot of calls, and so we're doubling the size of the number of people, not the number of call centers, the number of people at the call centers.
How many people are there?
There.
With regards to this,
Do you want me to answer this? Yeah, they're about. We're adding 8 to the people that were already there, and I think there were about 8.
One of the busing challenges that we heard from today in talking with drivers were at Butler, and they indicated to us that a couple of special needs drivers, that the buses they lacked air conditioning that was working. And these are concerns that they have expressed to the bus mechanics and the people in charge there for quite some time. But there were buses today shuttling kids that did not have air conditioning. This according to the drivers who were in these buses. What are your concerns with regards to that, and how do you address that?
Yeah, I don't know. We have extra buses. That's one of the things that bus drivers and their dispatchers do. Is they check the bus and they check for air. So if there are some very specific drivers who have a specific bus, they know that they're supposed to raise that with the dispatcher. So we can solve that. I hadn't heard that as a problem, so I'm sure that's not a big issue. But if it's a specific issue, I would ask the bus driver to talk to their dispatcher, because we have extra buses, and that's part of the pre-driving check that they're supposed to go through.
The same question is what I asked them. Did you not raise this? They said we have raised it. Management's not listening. They didn't get us new buses.
Yeah.
We made this request on Thursday of last week, and again on Friday. They did not provide them with a change in the bus.
Well, if you have specific names, or if they have specific issues, they can contact the dispatcher. And if nothing else, you can give me the names, and I'll follow up.
let's go to Daniel and then Asher.
Yes, Mr. Miles. We spoke with parents from Fort Houston Elementary. They say there's no air conditioning at the school. We spoke with them a few minutes, and there's still no air conditioning right now. What are you guys going to do to, with this heat, to prevent this from happening?
So,
Asked that before the school year.
yeah, we're on top of all the air conditioning, and just like every April and May, August and September, there's going to be maybe a specific classroom here or a specific classroom there, and sometimes it's more than that. For example, Fur Elementary or Fur High School was the only school where we had to move some kids today from the 3rd floor, or a handful of classrooms, to the 1st floor, the library and the auditorium, because of the heat. But we are on top of every single classroom, so if we don't have to close it, we won't. And if we can move a kid to this wing or this classroom, that's what we do. And so the principals, I tell you, if there's high classrooms, principals raise it with their senior executive director of support, and we get right on it. That's why we have temporary coolers. But I'm telling you again, every day you're going to hear something, and we're going to be on top of it, and we're going to move temporary coolers if we have to, and we're going to make sure our kids are safe, because we want them to work in an environment that's comfortable for learning. We can't learn well, we can't have high quality instruction if it's too hot or too cold in the winter. So we'll stay on top of it, and principals will let us know, but right now we have a handle on all of the air conditioning in the schools.
Asher and then Jay.
Mr. Miles, I think you may have mostly answered the question I was going to ask, but just to clarify, was Fur the only school that had serious AC issues?
Yes. Now, when you say serious, when it's 2 classrooms, kids in those 2 classrooms are going to think it's serious. But so I don't want to minimize that. But if it gets too warm, they're going to move the kids to a classroom where it's cool, or to the library, or somewhere like that. And we did not have to close any school today.
The service workers union says that the payrolls for cafeteria workers and custodians is showing $0 as of today, despite working 80 hours during the last pay period. Do you know why their pay stubs aren't reflecting the hours that they worked?
No, first I've heard of it. I'll check in on that.
Any other question? Yeah, just to clarify about the bus routes. So out of these 700 students, is it at some point are they going to have guaranteed the riding?
Yeah, we're working through that list. I think we've already knocked down a couple hundred, but we're working through that list, and we'll get them routes relatively soon.
Another question for parents, or is there any way to check the routes or the changes in real time, or just the calling is the only way?
They can also they can call their principal. There's people at the schools that have the document that show the routes, so they can check that way, or they can call in to the transportation barn. But probably the best way to get their individual attention is at their school.
I talked to one bus driver who said when the bus driver showed up on, I think, Monday, August 5th, expecting this bus driver, I'm trying real hard to avoid gender, and the other 30 bus drivers expecting to get routes. Only 3 of them got routes. And instead, some of them were assigned to ride along with the bus drivers and I guess keep things happy or going okay on the bus. But they were told there might be more routes later in the year when it gets cold. Could you explain that to me?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about, but I know we have more bus drivers than routes right now. And so I think somebody's probably saying, look, we might get more routes. Depends on how many kids come and how many kids ride. And so things are in flux for the next couple of weeks, and it's probably in flux for bus drivers too.
So you're keeping the ones who get to be the ride-along for now?
Yeah, I don't know anything about ride-along, so I'll find out about that.
We're going to address 2 more questions, Asher and Maria then.
Thanks. I know division superintendents, executive directors were out in schools all through today. You touched on this, but can you kind of summarize the key themes you heard from them, if you've gotten to debrief with them what they were seeing in classrooms?
Yeah, I talked to every one of the division superintendents, and I talked to a couple other executive directors. And what they're saying is kind of what I started with. They're saying good instruction on day one. Just to keep that in perspective, I'm not sure this happens in any other district where there's good instruction on day one. And to have 180,000 kids show up, 10,600 teachers show up, and provide good instruction for the kids. They were very impressed. The division soups were very impressed with what was going on in the classroom, just as I was in the 3 schools that I visited. I'll be in schools all week, so I'll have a better feel for at least a handful of schools. But it was good, very strong, something to build on. Of course, we're not there yet, but a much better start to the school year.
And just real quick, Bob, the 180,000, that's just generally how many students attend HIC. That's not a count from today, is it?
That's what we call a warm body count, but very preliminary, guys. So don't hold me to that number. What that means is we counted kids in the building.
Sounds pretty high for day one. Is that
That's what I think too. I think for day one that's pretty high, although the schools I went to had really good attendance on day one. But that is preliminary, asterisk, okay? And I'll have better numbers when I go to this meeting, and I'll have better numbers towards the end of the week. I'm loath to give you numbers because I can guarantee you they will change. In the end of the day, we have to go off of what kids register. So that's what we have to do.
And then you touched on the AC issues at one particular school in 2 classrooms. Can you tell us how many schools in the district had AC issues and if they will be fixed by tomorrow?
So I don't know exactly how many schools had AC issues. I know that every day, this week, next week, and this month and next month, we're going to have some AC issues in a dozen schools or more every day. And by that, I mean there'll be a classroom here or a classroom there. It'll be one AC unit going out. It'll be a chiller that goes down that we then put back up. It'll be a chiller that goes down overnight, and then we're going to have to start it in the morning. It's going to be that battle every day probably through October.
And then just one quick thing that we just heard and wanted to see if this is true or not. We heard from parents that all 4th grade teachers from Atherton Elementary were dismissed a day before school started, and other schools were asked to supply teachers to fill the spots. Is this true? Have you heard anything about this? Or?
So that's not accurate, but what is accurate is there are some teachers at Atherton that was replaced last week with other stronger, more effective teachers so that Atherton can succeed. And they started today, and as far as I know, they did a great job at Atherton today, the teachers.
That's all. Remember that we're going to have another update tomorrow at the same time.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Tonight, a story you'll see first on KHOU 11 News, an up-close look at the start of the new school year in HISD.
KHOU 11 News rode along with Superintendent Mike Miles to bring you a first-hand look at how he's trying to implement controversial changes in the state's largest district.
Victor Jacobo was the only TV inside access. Victor, a long day and a lot to digest.
Yeah, that's right, Mia. We got this invitation from the district, and a note for transparency as part of that invitation. Some restrictions that came along with it, including not showing students' faces, so you won't see them in this package. That's because it's pretty early in the year, and many students have not yet signed off on media releases. On top of that, we were near some of private conversations between Superintendent Mike Miles and some school leaders, and some of those conversations, because of the nature, were off limits. But we did see a lot on our road trip today with the superintendent. We hit up 3 campuses today, and I got to see firsthand Mike Miles' one-on-one, hands-on efforts to influence and reshape the district.
The very far side of the district.
Our first stop was at Mitchell Elementary, an NES school that last year jumped from an F-rated school to a B.
I put in my request to go NES, so I'm so excited.
To start, Miles met with school leaders, discussing challenges and goals before continuing the tour with class visits. Miles observed teachers, examined classrooms, and that would be followed up with notes and comments on ways to improve between Miles, the principal, and South Division leadership.
I was really impressed.
On the car ride to our next destination, Miles says some schools are adapting well to NES and showing signs of implementing his vision of systematic change well.
To see this right away, the level of comfort that the kids had and the teachers had, I didn't see that level of comfort generally until about November last year.
But the second stop at Thomas Middle School showed more of the growing pains continuing during Miles' second year as district leader, with Miles expressing concern over administrator and teacher preparation and execution.
We're not where we need to be. And that's just a reminder that, this is not easy work.
The third stop was at Jones Futures Academy, which houses staff supporting the entire South Division.
The operations facilities is probably about air conditioning?
Yeah, a lot of it is HVAC.
Overall, Miles says he's satisfied with classroom instruction at the start of the second year of the state takeover, but knows he needs school leaders to buy into his system, a struggle he hopes will soon be in the rearview mirror.
We're off to a good start. It's a lot further ahead than we were last year, but there's a lot of work ahead.
We reached out to the Houston Education Association for another perspective on the start of the school year, as we could not ask directly questions of educators on our tour. The HEA said in a statement they sent to us the district was not ready for the first day of school, with union members reporting concerns of some classrooms reaching temperatures as high as 85 degrees and overcrowding in some non-NES classrooms. Now, Miles reiterated today in a news conference that happened here at the HISD headquarters that the issues with heat and air conditioning happening at campuses around the district will likely be an ongoing issue throughout the coming months, likely through October. Now reporting live outside the HISD offices, Victor Jacobo, KHOU 11 News.
It is challenging to learn and focus, though,
Yes.
when you are uncomfortable and hot. Victor Jacobo with the detailed ride-along. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. Second day of school. I was out at a couple schools. Let's see, Mitchell Elementary School, Thomas Middle School. Also went to Jones Academy, but I went there to see mostly the Division Command Center. Another good day of instruction. I've been very impressed with the teachers and the principals and their preparation for instruction that they did all summer, or most of the summer, and then the last couple weeks and with more intensity to get ready for the school year. So we had a good day of instruction yesterday and then again today, which is a main focus and job of the district is to provide 180 student-teacher contact days of high-quality instruction. And that started yesterday and continued today, so very impressed with what I saw. We had a much better start this year than last year. Facilities, 274 schools open today. We didn't have to close any. I told you yesterday, it's going to be a fight every day through the rest of September and probably well into October. But we were able to keep all the classrooms, not all the classrooms, but all the schools cool enough to where the kids had a comfortable learning environment. Every day there's going to be some classrooms here or there that get warm, and we might have to move some kids. But we did not have to close any schools today. Again, that's a feat every day for our maintenance department. To keep the air conditioning units going. We're holding steady at, we have, I think, a total of 30 vacancies right now, but we also have about 23 extra teachers. They just don't fit the vacancies. Like 5 of those vacancies are JROTC. I think several are career tech ed specialized positions. I think 8 or so are special ed certified positions. So while we have 30 vacancies, we actually have 23 or so extra teachers. So that's good because there's 10,640 teachers. So our kids are not being deprived of an excellent teacher even in the first couple days of school. And then finally, before I get to your questions, we had a much better day with transportation. We know that that's a concern. 9,000 kids, when we get up to speed here in the next few weeks, at least 9,000 students will ride the buses, and we know for 3,000 of them, they're here for the choice program. And we know that some of them did not get routed. I think we're making good headway on that, with all kids getting routes. Now, keep in mind, every day, kids enroll, and they will enroll for the next 3 weeks, and those kids will not have bus routes, and they'll be asking for bus routes. And so there'll be some changes. I said that yesterday, and that will continue. But we fielded a lot more calls in the call center, was able to respond a lot more to all the requests or questions coming in, and so we think we're making good headway. I'll say again, though, the transportation system has been problematic for years, and we're trying to change the entire system, not just the number of routes. We're trying to optimize routes, so we're going to continue to work on that. So even after all the kids enroll and all the kids have a route, we'll still be working on route optimization and trying to improve the system. And that's going to take some time. In the meantime, again, parents or anybody can go to their school or the transportation number and try to get their answers. Who has the first question?
I have a question about vacancies.
And I'll let you, yeah.
Like you did. Okay. We had a parent at Mark White Elementary reach out. She went to meet the teacher. Her first grader met their teacher, but then on the first day of school, their teacher wasn't there. they had a substitute. They were told that that teacher was still in the HR process, going through the HR process to, I guess, officially become the teacher at this school. Are you aware of that, if any other teachers are going through that process, and maybe why they didn't finish the process before the first day of school?
I don't know about that particular, obviously a very unique case since we had only, 30 vacancies and all these extra teachers. We did have 88 absences, known absences. People do get sick even on the first day of school and things like that. So that's why those schools will have had substitutes, but I can't speak to the one individual you're talking about. Now, HR is still trying to fill these vacancies, and we're going to get even more extra teachers through the next several weeks. So there's still going to be some HR action over the next month.
I know you mentioned you're seeing progress with the vacancies. How does the first week of school compare to the beginning of the summer?
Yeah, so we were able to hire, do some really good recruitment through a performance interview and rigorous process, and we were able to get down to 28, I believe was yesterday's number. So we think that's a really good sign of the recruitment process that we had over the summer.
And there's 30 now? There was 28 yesterday, there's 30 now?
Yeah, and there's 30 now, 28 yesterday, 30 now. And that number will fluctuate a little bit all the time, again, because of, like the person who's processing, they may come on board tomorrow, right? And so keep in mind we have 10,640 teachers, so we'll keep that in perspective.
Next question, Margaret.
Yesterday, there was a round number of about 180 of the number of warm bodies, as you put it.
Yeah, I was I'm going to get an update. I was loath to give that number out, and I think that number is inaccurate. So we'll get you a real number once we get further into the year.
Can you provide a beginning of the year enrollment number, how many students are in the district?
Yeah, same problem. I did that last year. So no, I cannot give you a number right now. Let the dust settle for a little bit, and then we'll give you enrollment numbers, because that number fluctuates so, hour by hour.
One of my colleagues wants to know about just expanding on EduLog. Just asking, what services did the district expect, given the cost of the software at around about $1 million? What was the district expecting that EduLog provided?
Yeah, so actually had the team has been working with EduLog all for the last 6 months, I believe. And in any case, I had a talk with Sam Bull, the CEO. We work closely with EduLog to try to improve the system. It can't be done in a few months. I've been saying this. And so they're going to continue to partner with us and collaborate. And, their main collaboration with us is route optimization. But it's a very complex system, right? So part of it is the platform, part of it is route optimization, part of it is helping with scheduling, just all kinds of things. That's why we hired them. And so I think we're working well. We'll continue to work well, and we'll continue to improve our routes.
Do you have a rough number of how many schools have any issues with the AC today? And is there a message for parents that, their children are studying with this heat?
Yeah, so 274 schools open, and none of them had to close. I don't have the number of classrooms that may or may not have been warm, but I can tell you if we don't send kids home, they're safe. It's not too warm. And so I think that's been a huge success, given that we've had these challenges with our aging facilities.
Any other question? Go ahead.
Do you have a count for how many uncertified teachers there are this year?
I don't have an accurate account of that yet, but so let's send that to you. I've been cautioning myself of giving too many numbers because they always turn out to be a little bit off. So I want to be careful.
What prevention strategies are in place in light of years-long declining enrollment in HISD? I mean, are there retention strategies for students? Are you collecting feedback from families who are pulling their kids from HISD and going elsewhere?
So, we just started. Every year, you have kids enrolling all the way till Labor Day. That distresses me as a person who wants kids to show up on day one. But, people have different circumstances and may not arrive until a little bit later after the start of school. So before we analyze the enrollment and before we talk about retention strategies, let's see where the dust settles.
I have two questions on the bond issue. One is, as we saw today at least one of the schools, it's kind of wide open. So, and there's been this big push in the bond issue on added security. So could you talk about how you're going to provide added security for campuses where there are separate buildings, where kids are walking out in the open and not in a contained building?
Yeah, so let everybody know that, I have to be very careful. I cannot advocate for the bond, and so I won't be doing that. I can give information, so I can answer your question in broad strokes, which is we put forward a proposal in the bond for safety and security. One of those things, and it has to do with every building is a little bit different, but the safety and security means where we have a single point of entry, a vestibule, that's the state of the art on safety in the entrance, and then we have secure fencing around some campuses. Those are the sorts of things that we placed in the bond package when we talk about safety and security of our schools.
Okay, so places that don't have one point of entry, though, because
yeah. So every school. I mean, I think it's in the. It is in the bond proposal, which schools are getting what, and so yes, the safety and security has to do with that. If we feel like there needs to be for the bond proposal, schools that don't have a single point of entry, you're likely to see that in the proposal for the bond.
Okay, the other question about the bond is mostly what we've been talking about as schools start has been transportation, but improvements to transportation didn't make the cutoff to be included in the bond issue. So how do you make the improvements of facilities there and everything else other than cutting the routes when it's not in the bond issue, which you can't talk about?
Right. we don't need to talk. We can talk about transportation without talking about bond, so let me do that. Transportation, it's partly systemic, as we talked about, and so we're paying for that already through our general operating revenue because it's important investment to fix our system. And so that, for example, the partnership with Edulog, we're paying out of the general fund, and that's an important collaboration to help us fix our transportation system.
So how do you fix the rundown facilities of several of the bus barns?
Mm-hmm. So what we did last year when I visited the bus barns, you'll remember, I was frustrated with the facilities being old, cramped, and so we've already moved some more modular construction to two of the sites and have shifted some of the operations to those newer, better modulars. So we still have work to do on the facilities for transportation, but that's what we've done so far.
Any other questions?
Some parents have reached out to us with concerns about landscaping issues or tall grass and debris schools. One of them is T.H. Rogers and J. Herrera Elementary School. Some parents have even taken upon themselves to help with some landscaping. Are you aware of these issues, or is the district doing anything to help with that?
Yeah, thankful for any community members who have helped out, and I know there's principals have organized not landscaping, but beautification projects or grass cutting or moving this or that. But our maintenance team has been able to cut all the grass prior to the Monday. There's still some grass that's, what do you call it when the grass is already cut but it's lying on the ground? So, dead grass. Yeah, there's some dead grass, thank you, Margaret, on the ground, but we're working our way through that as well. Keep in mind, guys, we lost most of July. Not only was it a derecho, and we had to get rid of that debris, then there was a hurricane, we had to get rid of that debris, and we had to move trees. Even the city has not moved all the debris. There's debris everywhere because it's a large district and a lot of trees and a lot of debris. And so you'll see some of the debris piled on a side in some places, out of the way, out of kids' harm, so that they're not going to harm kids. And so, yes, we have some debris we still have to remove, but we feel pretty comfortable that the schools look fairly well, and give us some time and we'll be able to get them back to normal.
And that collaboration is still with solid waste, right? You guys are continuing that.
Yeah, there's been a number of groups that we've worked with. The city has helped, the county has helped, and so yeah, we've had a lot of collaboration. Yes, is a short answer. Look, we think we and other districts should be transparent, especially with data and especially with accountability. And so we've already released, as you know, the district level data because we have the capability to follow the methodology and report on our accountability ratings, which we have done. What we haven't done is given the school rating yet. And then the other districts could also do this or get technical assistance from the state and also produce their own data. But we've produced data already, and we think it's in the best interest, again, because of full transparency and using data to help improve instruction, that we release the data for schools. So we won't have the final, because the final is always TEA. But we have what's called final preliminary data. We have that. We're using that, and we'll release that probably Friday. School, and I'm talking about school level accountability data. We've already released the district level accountability data, in which we went from 121 DNF campuses to 41, which is a great celebration and a great tribute to our teachers and kids.
We have another question from KPFC.
Yeah, running back to the HVAC issue really quickly. You mentioned that no schools have had to be closed yet, but maybe some classrooms have had to shuffle around.
Correct.
Can you talk about the metrics that you use to make those determinations, what the threshold is for closing a school and closing a classroom?
Yeah, so generally we look at 82 degrees to be too hot. I mean, it's not dangerous, but it's too warm for a kid to concentrate or a teacher to teach well. So that's warm, but there's a balance somewhere, and we think that's the line. So we'll move classrooms, and we use temperature guns, not just this feels warm, because just like a family in a house, somebody might think it's warm, the partner might think it's cold. So we don't do it that way. We use a temperature gun, and that's how we do it. Now, look, we are trying even then to try to get schools to a comfortable, 73, 74 degrees. That's about what we can do in the summer. I was in both Mitchell Elementary School and Thomas. Were kind of cool today.
They were probably around 68 degrees. And then you walk outside and it's like 90 some degrees. So we're going to try to do the best we can to get the kids comfortable so that they're in a good learning environment and they can focus on the instruction.